All right, very good morning to all the viewers who have logged in from different parts of the world. We have pharma sector professionals, we have corporates, we have faculty, students, and participants from different walks of life. I'm your host, Ashish Sahu, Vice President, MET School of Training and Development, AITD, Managing Client Relations and L&D Projects. I'll just give a brief introduction of AITD, which is a cutting-edge global learning and development service provider for performance enablement solutions to organizations to nurture talent and make people thrive. Our solutions encompasses from individual contributors to senior leaders. I welcome you all to experience a very interesting conversation with plenty of insights from our guest this morning, Mr. Tarkesh Gupta at the Leadership Studio Future of Work series. Today's topic is shaping the future of work in pharma sector. We will be happy to take up questions from viewers towards the end as well, and request the participants to put their questions in the chat that we will be taking one by one as per the limits. Okay, now talking about the unprecedented pace and scale of technological disruptions brought on by the fourth industrial revolution and COVID-19 is affecting the operations functions across all the industries. Talking about pharma is also facing its own disruptions. For example, new business models are emerging such as direct-to-customer sales as well as personalized medicines. The trend around future work around leading to unleashed organization, connected on digital platforms now, and able to work anywhere, anytime. Now, these micro trends are generating major shifts in the skills the operations workforce must have, which is forcing companies and the employees to accept new ways of work. Any organization with a future of work mindset is more resilient, coping with uncertain times, and more adaptable and thriving. To understand more about the work culture, business environment, technological innovations, and the impact on the future of work at large, we have with us our guest this morning, Mr. Tarkesh Gupta. Before we start our discussion, I would like to briefly introduce our guest, Mr. Tarkesh Gupta. He is working in the capacity of CHRO South Asia with Fresenius Kabi India and is responsible for end-to-end HR functions and delivery. He has over 22 years of rich experience in various facets of human resources, administration, sales force, effectiveness, and business process excellence. He also has a deep interest in psychology and has numerous certifications to his credit, which is evident as he has been certified on social psychology from Queensland University, as well as personality assessments from Hogan, besides several other certifications, including professional coaching. Prior to joining Fresenius Kabi, he has worked with organizations like Max Bupa Health Insurance Company Limited, Rockwell Automation India, and Dabur Pharma as well. I welcome Mr. Tarkesh to our leadership studio today morning, and the topic what we'll be discussing today is shaping the future of work in pharma sector. I heartily welcome you, sir. Before we start, we request you to tell us a bit more about Fresenius Kabi globally and in India.
So, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Ashish, for a very nice introduction and kind words. I'm absolutely delighted and feel privileged to be here talking to you and other people. Fresenius Kabi, let me just give you a little background. Globally, it's a $36 billion organization, so fairly large organization. We have got 4 business units. One other than the Fresenius Kabi, we have a Medical Care. Then we have got a Helios. Helios is hospital chains, number 1 hospital chain in Europe. And then we have got another organization, Vamid. Vamid are in hospital projects, so constructions and getting the hospitals ready. Fresenius Medical Care is also number 1 organization in dialysis segment. They have got a presence in India also. Coming to Fresenius Kabi India, here we have got 2 sister concerns. One is Fresenius Kabi Oncology, which we acquired from Dabur Pharma. And for Fresenius Kabi Oncology, we have got a R&D setup at Gurgaon, and then couple of plants formulation at Baddi and the API plant in Kalyani, which is near West Bengal, near Kolkata in West Bengal. Also, we have got a Fitness Kabi India, which is a parent organization. We are based out at Pune. Here also we have got a couple of plants. One is near Pune in Ranjangaon. We are in a large volume parenteral. And then we have got another plant at Goa, which we have acquired from PDPL. All put together, we have got around 3,000 employees in India. And then we have got approximately 1,500 contractual workmen in India. So that's the kind of a setup here in India. And this Pune office caters to South Asia operations. So we are not only responsible for India, but also we are responsible for Pakistan, Afghanistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Maldives. So SAARC nations primarily. The business is from a basic standard solution, the bottle, which costs maybe 15 rupees, to a highly sophisticated devices, which may cost you maybe 4 to 5 million rupees. So that's the kind of business we are in.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving us a very good perspective of Resilience Kabi. What competitive edge does Resilience Kabi bring to the business in India? That business, when Indian competitors really find hard to copy. I mean, what is the differentiator, if I may ask you, which Resilience Kabi brings to the table?
Yes. So Ashish, I think 2-3 things which I would mention here. Number one, Fitness Kabi, quality of the products. Okay. So in fact, wherever we go, we actually talk about the quality of the products, and it's 100% guarantee, no compromise. We can actually get into a financial loss, but we would not make any compromise in the quality of the products, because we deal with the life of human beings. So that's absolutely no compromise on that. So that's one. Number one, people. I think that's biggest competitive edge which we have got. We have got an internally grown senior leadership team. If you would have gone through our website, India website, you would have seen that entire my leadership team is actually homegrown, and they have been working in the organization from last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years or so. So that's one of the biggest advantage which we have in India. The third is primarily, if you really ask me, the culture. We have been Great Place to Work. We have been certified by the Great Place to Work, right? Our HR practice is actually certified by the Korn Ferry, when we have actually got into the internal certifications across the region. That helps us to difficult to imitate. That gives you the competitive edge. We talk about the transparency, we talk about the empowerment, we talk about modesty, and we talk about the proactiveness and ownership. So what we call it tempo. This is not only on the piece of paper, but each and every employee actually live with it. And that's where we have got a value-based leadership.
Very interesting word coined by you, tempo. I mean, I like the acronym tempo, which talks about transparency and empowerment of people. And very rightly said that we don't compromise in quality because it deals with people's lives. Absolutely right. So what do you think is the vision of Resilience Kabi overall? I mean, these are the differentiators we are talking about. What is the vision, overall vision of Resilience Kabi?
Caring for life. This is our punchline, Bolo. Even if you say the motto, this is a caring for life, right? And this is what we actually, each and every employee truly believes in it. Our products are actually being used primarily for critically ill patients. So when they are in ICU, or maybe some kind of trauma is there, or some kind of surgeries are there, and that's where the motto is. We need to see that how we actually give best care to these patients. In terms of if you talk about overall industry and then also with Discovery, moving forward, if you talk about a market, and this is my personal opinion, not only in India but even the outside India also, in all probability, home treatment is going to be the key word in time to come. Patient may not like to go to the hospitals, right? They would prefer to be treated at home. And that's where the insurance companies, the pharma companies need to really think about the logistics model, the supply chain models, right? Another change which would happen and which I can see today, that the market may move from healthcare to preventive care, right? So in time to come, you may see that more immunity building health centers are coming up in hospitals. So the market would move from disease care to preventive. So you need to see that how you actually build immunity to prevent all those diseases. I'm sure that these are the things going to happen in time to come. Another point which I would like to mention here, Ashish, that the gig economy is going to be the key word, right? As far as not only the pharma world, but for that matter, any industry where the roles would depend upon the projects, not lifetime employment. That is going to be, I would say, the old, that would not be in fashion in time.
Thank you very much for these insights, and I mean, I really like the vision. What you're talking about is caring for life, and we also had on our studio insurance professionals and MDs and CEOs of insurance companies, and what you rightly mentioned is that it will be more healthcare to preventive healthcare. And people would prefer being at home, and that's what we've seen during the pandemic. That a lot of people they were treated at home, and they preferred to be treated at home. That absolutely what you're saying is, what your vision is very very futuristic, I would say.
And then the region,
economy, yeah, please.
Yeah. So I think reason behind it that if you understand the pharma world, that maximum number of deaths happens in the hospital because of the hospital acquired infections.
Oh, right.
Right. So that is one of the biggest reason of deaths, not only in India but outside world also. And that's where the minute you get hospitals, and then when your immunity is low, you may get into other kind of infections other than the problem which you have. And that's where the hospitals and the way the knowledge is actually increasing with the normal public, and then normal public, they are becoming more aware about it and say that, do I need to really go to the hospitals? Can I be treated at home? Right? Do I need to stay in the hospitals? And then this is going to be I think this is what personally I believe. This is going to be the game changer in time to come. And then hospitals, insurance companies, they need to think that how they align themselves with the changing reality.
I absolutely agree, and I can give you my personal example. I lost my father in the month of September last year, and in fact I had created the entire hospital facilities at home, because as you said, I knew he's because of his age, we didn't want him to take to the hospital and hospitalize him. So absolutely what you're saying, I fully agree. And we had created all the facilities at home which is relevant, which was required for it. Very, very true, and I fully agree. Coming back to the organization, how do you develop an organization with a future mindset, which is more resilient, coping with uncertain times, and more able to adapt and thrive? What you've seen in the current scenario after the pandemic.
So my view here is that there are certain things or certain changes going to happen, whether you like it or not. And that's where what we are trying to do. We have actually looked into the things from. We have divided the organization into verticals, because what makes sense to plant may not make sense to my field people, right? So we have said that okay, the plants, warehouse, supply chain, logistics is one part, and then my field force is the second part, right? When we are talking about plant or manufacturing, we are seeing that where are the opportunities to automate the manufacturing processes. Warehouse, also the way you supply the drugs, right? The logistics is going to play a crucial role. Even today, it is in our kind of a business, and that's where we are looking at what can be automated by using the artificial intelligence and machine learning. Moving forward, we are looking at how we analyze the small data available with us through different sources and reducing the reliance on the manpower. So, in regular tasks can be automated, right? When we talk about the plants and then warehouse. Field force, and then in the last 1 year, that has been a real great learning for us. Right? That entire year, a field was not in a position to move out and talk to the customers, meet doctors, etc., etc., and that gave us a good learning that how the model would be in future. So let me just tell you that the role of field reps or salespeople not going to go away completely. It would remain there because this business is primarily based upon the relationship, and then relationship can be done only when you actually interact with the people. It is not that a machine can do that job, but it is going to be changed dramatically. This is what, and then that change already started happening. And I generally use the word phygital, so which is physical. This is a hybrid model of physical and then digital world. You would have seen that doctors are actually during the pandemic. You would have seen that at least the doctors preferring the video consultations. They say that, oh, need not to come. You sit at home and I'm also sitting in my home and then let's have a consultation. When patient consultation is there through the video, then doctors would also like to meet the medical reps through the video chat only. So in time to come, it may happen that you assign 1 hour in the day and then say that all medical reps can actually join in, like the way we are talking. And one by one, the doctor is actually talking to the different reps. And that would actually give opportunity to reduce your travel cost.
Absolutely.
Right? You need not have travel. And use that time to build capability with the sales reps, with your sales team to analyze the data, use the technology. They should be comfortable in using the technology. I have seen many reps or even the senior managers, especially in sales, they are not so comfortable with the technology because they were never exposed to that technology. Now it is a high time to really be comfortable with the technology. Otherwise, you would become obsolete. Digital analytics tool will be the engine to accelerate agility and transparency because everybody is looking for that transparency nowadays. New technology like artificial intelligence, already talked about machine learning, etc. That analytics focused role would emerge, already started emerging, right? So that's where actually industry is moving, and then we even at Fresenius Kabi looking into those elements, seeing what makes sense to me as per my strategy. I'm not getting into all these fashion words because just it is a fashion and any companies are trying to do, you should also do. Our objective is very simple, that what makes sense to me, keeping in mind my business strategy, my business model. My business model is slightly different than normal pharma company, and I need to see that what makes sense to me.
Absolutely right, and I'm really enamored to hear that what kind of a clarity you have as far as the business model and the thought process is concerned. It's very simple and practical. And you talked about phygital. Yes, I had been talking to insurance companies also and other sectors also, and they also talking about phygital. which is more aptly used in insurance as well as pharma sectors. You also talked about relationship partners. I fully agree that relationship will never go, and it is as it is in such important sectors like pharma and insurance. The relationship plays a very critical role, and that will not go. And that is why we're talking about digital, which is a mix of both the models, hybrid model. We also talked about automation. We talked later in the session about AI. We talked about the digital analytics and all those things. They are absolutely futuristic. Now, in the process of adapting to this changed reality, every process, function, and role will be reimagined fundamentally, changing the future of work, workforce, and workspace. All the three things. What is your viewpoint on this? Because there are three fundamental changes taking place. One is work, one is the workforce, and third is the workplace as such.
So there's no second thought on the statement, Ashish. Okay, I do believe that change is the only constant in this world, and it is only a matter of time that the systems and processes which we see today are going to become obsolete tomorrow. And that's where it is a need of the hour to reinvent and reskill not only to yourself but to also your workforce. But it is important to know that what makes sense to me, right? What has changed with this pandemic is the pace with which the change was approached us. It is just 100 times faster than it was expected. So it is not that what we are talking today is something happening today only. No, it was happening earlier also, but only the pace got changed.
We call it digital acceleration.
Yes, sir. That's one thing. So, and that's where it caught the industries and the leaders I think in many cases unprepared, right, or unaware, and that's where the challenge is. I do believe that we don't have a choice now. Not that we were having a choice earlier. In fact, we were having no choice earlier also. Rather than facing it, addressing it, right? When I talk about HR, since I'm HR professional, but honestly, today I spend more time in the business because I'm responsible for the Pakistan business also directly. But HR actually, for example, the entire employee journey will have to be planned as HR gets ready for the new challenges that come along with the distributed virtual atmosphere. So when I talk about my field team, 1,200 people across different nations, forget about entire country. And then you may not be in a position to conduct an onboarding exercise physically in this kind of an environment where the travels are very limited for the new employees. So you need to see that how you are actually inducting your people, onboarding them, ensuring that organization vision and goals are actually percolated down, and ensure that you have given a seamless joining experience to the people. We already started doing it. This could mean the modification of not only your onboarding process, but your hiring process. Again, we are getting into the virtual hiring, video interviewing, right? Using the artificial intelligence to do a first level of interviews. Your recruitment practices, your reward recognition policies, your engagement initiatives, your exit process, and everything else in between. Everything need to be redefined, keeping in mind today's reality, right? Our philosophy at Fresenius Kavi for years had been focused on the building culture, people, and processes, and these things are inseparable, right? This is not something that I'm talking today. I've been talking this from last maybe 5-6 years, and hopefully this holistically answer your question.
Yes, it does answer my question, and we're talking about culture, people, processes, and you also talked about the onboarding. We also do a lot of virtual onboarding for organizations. And now, as the time progresses, we may also have blended learning approach where we have, like, you have field force which requires coaching also, because we are moving from sales manager to sales coaching. In fact, like you mentioned about that you are a HR professional. Now, what should be the role of human resources? What mindset shift, though you talked about some part of it, does this represent for the future, and how different are these priorities today? We'll deeply dive into some of the aspects, like, I would talk about a clear-cut difference between enabling performance or managing performance. I mean, what is the business ka bhi looking at? Whether business ka bhi looking at being job focused or well-being focused, whether it is bureaucracy or self-managed teams, whether it is culture and behavior focused or strategic goal focused, whether it is people focused or technology focused. So some of the areas we already mentioned, like about technology, culture. What about enabling performance or managing performance?
Okay, so
Focus.
I'll touch upon one by one, Ashish, and then since you asked me a question, I may not remember, and then you need to help me.
Okay, sure.
So
I will.
when we talk about enabling performance and managing performance, I think the keeping in mind the younger generation, their mindset, it is not about managing; it is more about enabling. And we strongly believe that managers need to play a role of a coach, which enables the performance. People need to manage themselves. I have no right and I would say the power to manage others as a leader. Let people manage themselves, and that's where we talk about self leadership. When I have got 1200 people who are in the field, it is difficult to make any supervision, right? Effective supervision, I would say. And that's where it is people mindset that they should not need any supervision, and this is what we actually ensure during our recruitment process also, that the entrepreneurship has to be there. You don't need any supervision. Your manager's role only to enable your performance, untap your potential. So this is what I strongly believe, right? The second, I think you mentioned job focused or
job focused or well-being focused.
Well-being focused, right? I have a slight different thoughts here, and then since I am a little more analytical, means my personality is towards logical way of looking into the things.
Right.
I believe that yes, you need to look into the well-being, but while looking into the well-being of your team, you cannot compromise on the deliverables, right? While you are looking into the deliverables, you cannot ignore the well-being of your team members. So you have to strike a balance. So it is not either or. It is somewhere you strike a balance. Balance, yeah. You should be in a position to ask the right questions, right, while ensuring the people's well-being, their stress, their pressures, their work-life balance, etc., but also at the same time ensuring the delivery. Third, what you mentioned,
and others you have already mentioned. The other 3 points were basically bureaucracy or self-managed teams, cultural behavior focus or strategy goal focus, which you already answered. Then you also answered about people focus, technology focus, talking about the digital analytics.
But one thing I would say here, we talked about culture and behavior focused, right, or strategy and goal. Again, it is not either or, right? My strategy has to be aligned with the culture, or my culture need to be aligned with the strategy. I strongly believe that if your culture is not aligned with your business strategy, right, that means your culture will eat your strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Absolutely.
Right. It has to be aligned. So if I'm talking about that, I'm one of my key element as part of my strategy innovation, that innovation need to be lived by employees and managers. But if my managers are actually not giving that kind of space and opportunity to the team members to innovate, or they are not allowing them to ask the questions, then whatever your strategy is not going to give you the results.
Right.
And,
I'm
and that's where
really,
it,
yeah, I'm really amazed the way you put it so simply, and that's what shows, the kind of depth you have. It comes so naturally, like, what we call in our training parlance. I'm from the training industry, and what we say. A trainer makes complicated things simple, whereas a consultant makes simple things complicated. So I fully agree. The way you have been, putting all these thought processes in such a simple manner, I'm really amazed to hear this. And
thank you so much. I do believe in the simplicity only, without getting into any management jargons.
Technical jargon, right? And you talked about one very interesting thing, which I will mention here is self-direction, which we normally there's a competency which we always develop in virtual onboarding, which is being conscientious, and which primarily means is that I'm self-directed. I don't need supervision all the time. These are the
Right.
times where micromanagement doesn't work. So
Right.
it is more about people are empowered, as like you said in your golden tempo, which you said that it should be transparency, and people should be empowered and they have the same direction. So it gives a sense of the culture what you have been talking about very strongly as far as business is concerned. So what is your people strategy, the kind of talent you recruit and how you manage them? Do you see people strategy as a differentiator for companies? As you mentioned earlier, yes, you have. Are there instances where you have been differentiated, or your this differentiated strategy has worked wonders for the organization?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think I strongly believe that people are always a great differentiator at marketplace.
Right.
Especially when you are in a generic kind of a world. Every company is actually dishing out the same kind of products. So when I'm talking about a generic market, right, paracetamol is a paracetamol, whatever the brand name is there. But
Right.
how you differentiate yourself, right? That's where the
Right.
people play a very crucial role. The relationship you build with your customer, the kind of a services you provide to your customer, that gives you a difference. Our people strategy is around to create an ecosystem. When I talk about a culture, I talk about the ecosystem,
Ecosystem.
right? Which encourage certain things, right? It is something like that. You actually plant a seed, right? And then you want that this need to be blossoms.
Blossom.
There are certain ecosystem which helps, right? You have to have a fertile soil, water it. You have to kind of use some kind of a fertilizer, etc., etc. You have to ensure that the enough air and then sunlight is there, right? If you put that plant inside your room, perhaps you would have not giving that ecosystem to blossom. And this is what I strongly believe in the organization, that your ecosystem plays a very, very crucial role. And that's where what we try to do here, that we develop a value-based leadership. When I say value-based leadership, I have got a certain values. Those certain values talks about certain behaviors, what employee and leader need to exhibit. And we ensure we have a mechanism to get the feedback around those behaviors, right? So if you are not doing well on those behaviors, if you are not in a position to exhibit certain behaviors which are expected by an employee in the organization, you would not be in a position to grow in this organization. So this is number one thing. Number two, the entrepreneurship. That's a key word here. So we say that as a leader, as a manager, you should not show helplessness. What can I do if someone else has not done the job? What can I do? Economy is not growing. What can I do? The customer is not looking into us. These are the strictly no
Excuses, yes.
Right? If you are an entrepreneur, how you make the things happen? This is what we talk about. Wherever, whatever the follow-up is required, whatever you need to do, whether you have done the efforts or not. After that, whether you get a result or not, that's a different thing altogether. But those efforts were there or not, and that's where we talk about ownership at every level. I am responsible, accountable for what I am responsible for. I cannot give any excuse. I cannot abdicate my responsibility. Objective is very simple: to build a highly engaged and performing workforce. I don't want to build only engaged workforce. That means you are into the comfort zone, right? So this is what the philosophy. To reply of your second part of your question, when you talk about whether you have seen any such things happening, I can share my example here. Example means my organization example. In generic market, once again, I'm touching upon that topic, that how you differentiate. It is not about your product. It is not about your brand also, right? It is people who makes difference. Once again, I'm repeating the same line, but I strongly believe we dislodged innovator from market and reached to a pole position primarily because of the people and the relationship which we enjoy with our customers, right? This is what I have seen, not only in one product but in couple of products.
Thank you very much for very interesting insight about people strategy which we talked about. Now, what we are seeing during these times is the organizational challenges of this era are to transform, change, accelerate, improve, modernize, go faster, get better, make it cost effective. And among all these challenges, being a HR, CHRO of the organization, how does the organization prioritize and strike balance to accomplish these objectives in such a dynamic world?
Interesting, Ashish, and this is what I actually struggles in many forums. Interact with many HR professionals, not only the HR professionals but others also, because these are all words, right? Nice words, I would say, and then people talk a lot around it. For me, actually, these are nothing beyond words. Your priority would and should always be linked with your people and with this strategy. You cannot do everything, right? You have to decide that what you need to do and why you need to do. Why need to be answered first. So I say the change, and then I'll give you one very interesting anecdote. So one of my industry expert, I would say, he was talking to me, and he said that his organization this year in 2020 took a theme: change. I said, very good, fantastic. Change is the only constant thing, right? So of course we need to change. I said, but whether your junior person in the organization can articulate that what need to be changed,
yes,
at a personal level and then at organization level, and why that change is required. If that is not there, if your every employee is not in a position to articulate the way your CEO articulates, then change is not going to take place. So organization need to spend a lot of time answering that why and how. That is very, very important, right? If it is not clear, if your employees are not in a position to understand, then these remain only a fashion word, nothing beyond that. So you decide that whether you need to transform. Wonderful, fantastic, you want to transform. But what you want to transform and why you want to transform and how you are going to transform, that need to be answered, and that's where many CEOs and then leaders struggles. So my thinking is very simple. As an organization, what is more important for me? Let me take one. Say that make it cost effective. Very good. How am I going to make it cost effective? Right? What are the opportunities available? Whether my every employee, even the office boy, understands it to switch off the lights whenever the room is not in need, and that's where you bring the changes.
I fully agree, and very interesting thing which you talked about is why, and why is very important. And you also talked about some time ago about aligning the people towards the organizational goals. I think that says it all. if your organization is aligned to the organizational objectives and goals, then all those things will be basically prioritized accordingly.
Right.
Absolutely, I fully agree that the foremost task is aligning the organization. Now, this pandemic has brought tremendous change in human resource planning and operating to ensure employee well-being, as we talked about, performance enablement and upskilling employees to perform well. How is the pharma workforce going to change? Though you have mentioned about digital, you have mentioned about field sales force, you have also mentioned about the video interaction with the doctors and all. What changes you anticipate as far as the pharma sector is concerned in the workforce?
Okay. So I think there are certain things, Ashish, not really linked to pharma, but overall I would say.
Okay.
I mentioned, I think, the gig economy. So not only the pharma, but everywhere. So it is more about the project-related roles, right? So you have today one particular project, you hire people, and then thank you very much. Unless you have another project and then reskill the people. It is going to be like Bollywood, right? So you work in a film, thank you very much, and then you work in another film, right? What organization need to focus more into that, how you are developing the versatility with the people, right? So today you are actually, for example, suppose if you are starting a greenfield project, maybe you are going to have a plant. So project management is a key skill, but after your plant is up and running, what is more important? That operational topics. Whether you are reskilling those people to actually getting into those kind of a role. Otherwise, those people would not be, I would say that their skills would be obsolete, not required by the organization. It is something like that you done a movie, romantic movie. So you need to be a good actor in a romantic movie, right? Maybe second movie is a comedy movie. Immediately you need to shift your role and then actually perform well in the comic role. Or maybe immediately after you have got some kind of a fight kind of in a movie. So you need to show that kind of skills there also. This is what is going to be there. Unless as an employee, as an individual, I am looking into those things and reskilling and reinventing myself, I'm not going to survive long period of time. Organization need to help in this. Organization can facilitate, but the responsibility lies with an individual, right?
Right.
Moving forward also, even today, the younger generation, this is what we need to understand. We are at such an age where we have got a young people or maybe kids, those who are at maybe 14, 15 or maybe 20 years age. If you have noticed, they doesn't believe in instructions. If you give them the instructions and you kind of believe that they are going to follow, it doesn't happen. When you are going to deal with such kind of a generation at a workplace, you need to know that how to coach them. So coaching skill is going to be a very critical for manager without getting into complexity of the coaching. Coaching, if you really ask me, in one simple sentence, how to ask the right questions. Nothing beyond this. Second thing, technology, of course, right? That if you are comfortable with the technology, the need you call it, you need to be comfortable with that. Moving forward, when organizations also going to be more bottom line oriented, right? They would look the bottom line, because the pandemic also taught us that was end of the day you need to have a cash in your pocket, right? Then you only survive. So organization also need to see that how they ensure that they have got a cash in their pocket. And then that's where they will look into the technology, they will look into structures, flat structures going to be there with adequate control mechanism, flat structures, virtual workforce with adequate control mechanism by using the technology, so that they are not losing the control.
Right. Yes, I must say, I mean, I was really mesmerized by the anecdote you used, Bollywood. And the example you used that, today you're doing a movie which is action oriented, and you have to, align yourself towards that kind of a role. And then you switch on to another role which is comic role and you have to align to that. It is absolutely such a deep thought which you have put it so simply. And I'm being into training, these examples actually touch you so deeply. The kind of examples you have given, and also I really liked being a trainer into training industry. The one line which you mentioned about is uh, about coaching, which says that how to ask the right questions. So I've been making a lot of notes because I'm getting such wonderful insights from you regarding
So nice of you. But honestly, whatever the little coaching experience I have got,
right,
it's not very complex thing. It is all about that whether you can ask the right questions in the right manner. Nothing else.
right. And I know you have been certified as a coach also, and we also are in the same kind of a business where we also do a lot of
Understand.
coaching, and we are into performance enablement workshops. And what you rightly pointed out is I would like to mention here is that we also saw what are the skills required at this point of time, and that is why we run our performance enabled workshops. They are very bite-sized workshops which typically deal with how to work in a virtual team, how to coaching for performance, and these are very very popular, and these are very very apt at this point of time. So these courses we run, and they are very popular among the corporates. I'm sure we will also sometime we'll be able to do seminars as well. Now, coming back to like COVID has disrupted working experience, and we're talking about customer experience, talking about product experience. How do these organizations create a positive employee experience, because employees are also going through tough times during this pandemic, and keep their morale and productivity as high as possible? That's like you're talking about people in organizations. So how do you do?
Right. Right. So I think hopefully the worst part of pandemic is over. Hopefully. Right. I think during such kind of a times, it is about the connect and communication, and what we have seen in the last 1 year or so. The most important point here is that leadership has to be visible. The leadership visibility is key. It should not happen that when you are working from home and then you don't know what to do, right? Leaders should give guidance, right, and a courage to the team. And that's where what we have seen, that regular connect with the leadership team, right? It is very, very important. By in the confidence and sense of security in the employees, and then give clear message around that what are the company's strategies, objectives, and way forward. So this is one key thing which is very, very important. What we have also done, we have actually utilized this time to launch our artificial intelligence powered employee connect program.
Okay.
Right. We also that means that my chatbot is actually reaching out to each and every employee, asking tailored questions. Right. So I'm saying that every employee will have a little different questions depending upon the tenure in the organization, right? And depending upon the kind of a move the person is actually executing. So
Or
that
probably
also gives you,
role he is having.
yeah, and that's where that gives you a great insight that what exactly is happening, and then it is on a real time basis.
Interesting.
Right. Another thing what we have also done, that we have also got into employee well-being. So we reaching out every week, talking to the people, whether everything is okay, whether you are having some kind of symptoms, etc., etc. Else also organization do so that make people or make well-being as part of the employee daily routine. So encourage work-life balance, right? Creating engagement programs around healthy lifestyles, Okay, some kind of engagement programs around the healthy life, healthy work life, healthy lifestyle. That what we need to do, what we should do when we are working from home, etc., etc. So you are showing that concern with the employees, and that makes a difference.
Well, it's like, you're talking about like we're talking about employee productivity, and you're talking about that, you have device chatbots which talks about differently with different employees depending on their roles to get a good insight. Now, how does the organization capture and scale up the productivity that you can come with the new ways of working, specifically what you're talking about? Like, you get an insight that this is the way the work should be done with new combination of virtual and hybrid model. Now, since we're talking about the hybrid model where some people will be working from home and some will be coming to office, which most of the organizations are adopting now. So how do you accelerate individual learning curves so that they become more productive in this kind of a scenario, in this kind of a hybrid model scenario?
I think let me again keep it very simple. It is all about the clarity you give to the employee in terms of the deliverables. It is also a lot depend upon that how your managers are actually relooking into the goals which you have set in. It is not that you set it and forget it, and then you will review after end of the year only. So the world is actually changing. You remember that ad of one of the bike that fill it and forget it. So it is not like that.
Set it, fill it, forget it.
Something like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it is not like this. In this dynamic world, fast changing world, you need to see that how regularly you are looking into those goals which you set in the beginning of the year, maybe every month or every quarter, and then see what kind of changes are required. So you give the clarity to the people, right?
Right.
For example, what goals we set in 2020 beginning, right? By the time we reach to the first quarter, end of the first quarter, I think those were supposed to be changed. I don't know how many organizations looked into those aspects. And then every month you need to look into depending upon the kind of the market situation is there, the kind of environment was there. So I think when you talk about that how to make employee productive, it is all about that giving that clarity. This is one thing. Second thing, from a manager perspective, comfortable you are into the crucial conversation. I have seen in many cases people say that okay, they have got a very highly engaged team, but whether that highly engaged team is actually delivering what they're supposed to deliver, that is also very, very important.
Very important.
And it is important to develop the mechanism, whether it is offline or online. Now we are talking about technology. You have to have every manager has to have a dashboard, right? So that you are on top of the things. And organization need to help by using the technology to create the dashboard for every level of manager and employees, and then regular feedback that where you are, right? And I strongly believe, and I love of the Gantt charts, right? So you know that okay, you keep on tracking the progress. It is not only the projects, but even in your regular day-to-day work, that makes a lot of difference. So I strongly believe, without getting into too much complications, that the clarity on your deliverables and then regular review mechanism, the dashboard, if you can develop that kind of a culture in the organization, that helps you a lot. And then your managers should be comfortable looking into things, asking the right questions, and enabling the performance. So everything is actually interlinked together.
Right. So there's the one question which I would like to ask you, which is of our interest, or like you were saying that what will be the role of outsourcing for HR functions and learning and development particularly? As far as your resilience is concerned.
Yes. My favorite topic actually, when we talk about outsourcing, if you really ask me, you can outsource anything and everything, right? Nothing is there which you cannot outsource. Even my role can also be outsourced, right? But a lot depend upon as to what is needed. You need to decide as to what need to be produced internally. What you are good at, that is very, very important, right? what
Right.
need to be produced internally, what need to be bought externally,
What is it?
right? Where my skill and experience lie, where someone else can do this job better than me, right? I need to take help. And then I remember one of the quote in somewhere I read, and it says that if someone else can do the job, your job, better than you need not to poke your nose in that.
Absolutely. Fully agree. Very rightly said.
So that holds true, that if you can deliver a better training for me than I myself, or maybe the resources I have got available, I would be more than happy to go there. Why should I unnecessarily try to invest or spend resources on something which I cannot do as good job as you?
Fully agree. Fully agree.
So that's what organization need to see, that if I've got a systems, resources, capability to do the things as good as anybody in the world, let me do it myself. If
So it has
not,
been it has been Takesh, it has been a very, very interesting conversation. I would like to get more insights on shaping future work in pharma sector, but due to paucity of time, we shall invite you some other time again, when you also
Sure.
have more time to spare with us. But before we end our conversation, we'd like to have final thoughts to sum up the entire discussion what we had today.
so I think if you really ask me, when we talk about the future moving forward, or future work place, as a leader or even as employee, or in the corporate world, we need to be comfortable with the new technology,
Absolutely.
right? We need to be comfortable with the numbers. That's also very, very important. No matter which function you are, even if you are in HR, you should be in a position to understand the numbers and make right inferences and create a story around it. That's going to be a critical task. Second, the critical element, that can you find opportunities from us hopeless situations, right? When the pandemic actually attacked the world, there are organizations, there were leaders who sensed the opportunities and then took advantage of it. So this is also very crucial skill. The third thing, which is not something new, but in the short supply always, that is humility.
Humility.
Humility is always in demand, and will continue to be needed more and more in leaders. And I'm always amazed to see that it is in short supply.
Yes, you're right.
I don't know what to do, but that modesty and humility is going to be keywords moving forward.
And that's why we talk about values, and that's why we talk about culture. Very, very interesting thoughts, and thank you very much for coming to our leadership studio and giving us such insightful about the future of work and how do we shape the future of work, about the workforce, about the workplace. Thank you very much once again.